And so many times, if you're leading by fear, insecurity, arrogance, ignorance, or apathy, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and you're going to have what I refer to as a break in alignment. And if you have a break in alignment, you really can't thrive and really be all you're supposed to be unless you're taking the time to really understand and know yourself from the inside out. So I think building the business starts with building yourself. It was one of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, got an interesting guest for you today. Believe it or not, he started his career out living in his car, and from there has gone to 9 figures, which is no mean task. Even if you didn't start out in your car, even if you started out in a studio apartment in Manhattan, making it to 9 figures, that's a worthy accomplishment. Stephen Scoggins, hey, you're writing, you're doing all sorts of stuff here. There's one lesson you've taken away from the bad years, the years that build character. What would that be?
You know, I think that, again, it's going to come down to, and first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the introduction to your audience. The first thing always comes to mind is not building a business without building yourself, because you end up scaling dysfunction. You don't have to go back and do stuff all over again. Your processes, systems have your DNA written all over top of it. And so many times, if you're leading by fear, insecurity, arrogance, ignorance, or apathy, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and you're going to have what I refer to as a break in alignment. And if you have a break in alignment, you really can't thrive and really be all you're supposed to be unless you're taking the time to really understand and know yourself from the inside out. So I think building the business starts with building yourself. It was one of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately.
All right. So, building yourself. When you have a setback in life, I find, and we all have them, even at your lofty perch right now, you get setbacks in life, whether it's personal, professional, it just happens. And I think they're important because they're learning opportunities, and more importantly, they're opportunities to really build your self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people never get back up from those falls, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get back up? How do you keep going?
That's probably a bazillion-dollar question. If I could figure out how to solve that for the world, we'd both be doing really well. I can tell you what works for me. This is going to sound a little bit silly, but I start with a mantra, and I learned this as I was breaking free from the homeless atmosphere and finally was couch surfing on my dad's couch, which took about 6 months. I began realizing that everything that I was believing about myself had either been projected onto me, or the experiences I had were bleeding into me. Okay. So we know that as being the catalyst of the breakdown. Like, I'll give you an example. My father used to say all the time, he's like, Scoggins don't get ahead, they get by. Now, it's because he had a business and it failed, so he thought he was saving me the pain and energy of starting a business, not knowing who I was going to be and what kind of drive I had. So what happens is you begin getting programmed from the outside in, and the only way to combat that is to begin programming yourself or reprogram yourself from the inside out. And here's how I do it. I have a mantra that I literally say almost every morning, and I've done this for a long, long time. So it's just a handful of words. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am wise. I'm a steward of the Most High. And this is the most important one. This is going to sound silly. I love you, Stephen. Those different segments right there do something to the psyche when you repeat them over and over and over again, that allow you to begin looking towards opportunity and away from apathy and complacency. So many times we get stuck in apathy and complacency because we're judging all of our future aspects based on our past performance or past experiences, not realizing that you can actually move the needle if you focus more on what you want to become rather than what you are now.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what those 5 mantras are. Those are what we would call activation codes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they shift your focus, your consciousness, your perception from what was to what will be.
Mm-hmm.
And we also call that bending the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It does absolutely change your resonance of your quantum energy as you relate to the quantum for sure. You cannot access the quantity if you're in shame, guilt, and condemnation. You just can't get there, right? So you have to start from the inside out. And I think it's one of the things that I love about what you guys do and how we kind of relate here is if we can get people to open up their awareness, we can open up their opportunities more than anything else.
Yeah, hey, you're never defeated. You're never a failure unless you believe you are.
That's right.
And otherwise, every failure is an opportunity. And the guy from the Dilbert, Scott Adams, that
Yeah.
he wrote a book, Failing His Way to Success.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. And yet in the US, and your parents do this to you, the school system does it, failure is always perceived as a negative, something to be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
When you avoid failure, you avoid success. You know, capitalism without failure is like Catholicism without exorcism,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Without the devil.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. The other thing about it too is if you avoid failure or avoid I don't even use the word failure. I'm either learning a lesson that I can learn from. And I began doing that because I just began looking at the result. Okay. The result wasn't what I wanted. Okay. What created the result? Okay. Well, it was a certain thought, a certain emotion, and a certain action. And if I could reverse engineer the thoughts, the emotions, and the actions, I was able to then open up kind of the learning lesson from it. And then it took away the meaning. Was that Viktor Frankl said, a man search for meaning, right?
Yeah.
Suffering ceases to have meaning, right? Ceases to have meaning when it has a meaning, right? So you take all these different things and you change the way that corresponds to it. You mentioned something a second ago that I thought was really powerful when you're talking about, success and failure, this failure component. I also believe that if you avoid learning the lessons, you get to take the test again and again and again and again. So therefore, you're actually calling in more of the circumstances, more the failure that you really want to avoid simply because you won't lean into the discomfort for a few minutes.
Yeah, it's so true. And everything in life is temporary. 1 minute you're on top of the world, the next minute you're on the bottom of the barrel, next minute you're back on the top. My mother always used to say the buck is round, right?
That's true. That's very true. As you're kind of looking at this whole thing, I think, most folks want more. I'll say this much. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of C-suite professionals in the executive realm. And they all have to deal with setbacks and whatnot to come back from that. So it's so interesting you wanted to open the show with that because I feel like one of the things that I'm really good at is helping them unpack the lessons to learn and then reframing them to repackage them to be more stepping stones. I've discovered that it is elite professionals, entrepreneurs, people who are really getting after it in business and the world in general. They all have one major thing in common, and that is none of them think they're far enough ahead. It doesn't matter if they made $100 million, $1,000, $100,000. Everybody feels like they need to be further, rather than aligning themselves with who they are and their authenticity. If love vibrates at one of the highest frequency, authenticity, I believe, is the only frequency that vibrates higher. So you take love and you take authenticity, you bold them together. And the next thing you know, now you actually have a bit of a recipe to rewire the entire environment in yourself and around you.
Yeah. And you know what authenticity is, Stephen? Another word for it?
I always concur congruence, but I'm here. What's yours?
It's called truth.
Yes.
Truth. Presence combined with truth is authenticity.
Yes.
Right? And
yes. 1000%.
We all know authentic people. We all know them. And they're unapologetic.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make excuses. Right?
Yep.
And they move ahead. They learn their lessons. And they keep going. They keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So I'll talk to you a little bit about this, the awakening that I foresee taking place in the country, in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen unabated. Nothing in this world can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically you're a torchbearer bringing forward light to people who are in very dark places here.
Yep.
I just believe that I've always believed, and I know you do too, that all of your limitations are self-imposed by your belief structure.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting you bring that up because I think one of the things that I had to do myself is change my entire belief modality. One of the things I used to share from stage a lot was I had my first mentor. His name was Steve Meyer. Oh, he's an old home builder in the area. My dad's employer. Met him when I was a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And one afternoon, he pulled me down off my dad's crew working in the summers, and he asked me two very important questions. First one he said is, what is the difference between a rich man and a poor man? I responded with money. You should have seen the look on his face. It was like he was popped me in the back of the head. He said, absolutely not. It's the way they think.
Mm-hmm.
But the next question was just as important. And this goes to the belief structure. He said, do you want to learn to think like me, or do you want to continue thinking like your father? One of the things that I think is so powerful, that is so underrated, is the power of choice. You mentioned the Great Awakening. There is an awakening. It's happening. It's actually happening now. It's happening all around us. I'm seeing people that I would refer to as light bearers or people who are really guides, not gurus.
This is it. Well, this is it. Torch bearers.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. But at the same time, so let's say the audience encounters a torch bearer like yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And encounter the torch bearer, you're sharing as much as you can, as often as you can, as pure as you can, as authentic as you can on a regular basis, yet the ear, right, still has to hear it, right?
Yeah.
And see, this is what a torchbearer does, is they put the words into the ethos that people need to hear, but it's up to the person listening to actually listen and awaken, at least from my perspective.
All right. Well, we got to kind of cut it short now. I could talk to you all day, but we will definitely have you back on the show. You got a book, some way to connect with you here on the web here?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do it is right now is at stevenscoggins.com. We actually have a brand new quiz we just launched called the Awakening Alignment Quiz. It's five different questions. Takes about 5 minutes, but it helps you understand how integrated you are and regulated you are. So I invite folks to do that. They can find that at stevenscoggins.com/alignment. And other than that, man, I appreciate the time with you and your audience. I can't wait to hang out with you more.
Likewise, man. Definitely. Hey, questions, comments for Steven, myself, KL@KerryLutz.com. Link in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. All we ask is you sign up for the free newsletter when you go there. Steven, we'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks.
All right, much love. Take care. See you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.